Welcome to the Connect Like Minds podcast. I'm your host, Sharryse. I interview people making a difference in their communities and within their creative spaces. Today's special guest is a mindset coach for teens, young adults, and parents. She's also an entrepreneur. Welcome to the Connect Like Minds podcast, Yolanda Hall.
Wah, wah, wah. Hey, Sharryse, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I just always like to start out with saying thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm excited about, Connect Like Minds and what you're doing and just to be a part of it and, to be a part of your community and on your platform. So thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming on here as well. So let's jump right into the interview. Let's start from the beginning. Can you tell everyone where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm from a place called Far Rockaway. It's in Queens, New York, right? And it's funny because
Okay.
Far Rockaway, everybody in New York is like Far Rockaway. We are literally on the Atlantic Ocean. Like I grew up on the
Wow.
beach, like 2 blocks away from the
Wow.
beach. Yeah,
Okay.
so yeah. A train, if anybody New York is here listening.
So how far is that? So how far is Queens away from like all the other boroughs in New York?
Yeah, I mean, it's the easternmost, but it probably takes about 45 minutes to get
Hmm.
to different ones depending on where you're going, especially on the
Okay.
subway.
Okay.
Brooklyn is pretty close because
Hmm.
take a bridge and get into Brooklyn. Um, but it's some travel time. It's some travel time. New York is a big state, and the boroughs, they are big as well. So, and I traveled most
Yeah.
by the subway when I was moving back and forth in New York. So, yeah, good
Okay.
45 minutes on the subway.
I've only
So,
been to New York, honestly, like two times in my life. And
really,
one time I went for a few days, but I was with a friend who lived there.
mhm.
So, like, yeah, I don't know my way around New York City at all.
Right, right, right. And I couldn't give you directions to most places unless we
Mhm.
was on the subway. But like my mother, she knows her way around, and I always call her like somebody's asking me what do I need to tell them. Plus, I left when I was 18, so yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't have a whole lot of time to move around like I wanted to.
You're a true Virginian now, so.
Pretty much, pretty much. I've been here more than half of my life. Absolutely.
Wow. How was life for you growing up in New York?
Um, Life was pretty good. It was I'm an only child and
Hmm.
I grew up in a single parent household. I
Okay.
Yeah, I always say that the village raised me because I had a maternal grandparents, I had paternal grandparents, and I had my aunt who had 5 children of her own. So she was like,
Wow.
yeah, she was my babysitter. My cousin was 2 months older than me, and all the rest of them
Mhm.
were younger than us. So I was like the
Wow.
sixth child most days of the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So yeah, that was fun, being able to
Hmm.
go over there. And but I lived with my one of my grandparents. I lived with them because I went to
Hmm.
Catholic school. And the Catholic school was located next to her house, not far from her house, so I could walk to school, and so I stayed with her during the week, and then went with my mother on the weekends, and I went with my other grandparents on the other weekends. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And then as I got
Yeah.
older, I moved home with my mother. I took the school bus, but I went to my aunt's house after school. My mother was going to be working late, so it was just a lot of moving parts, dynamics. But the village was there, and my mother
Hmm.
made the plan, and that's what we went with. So, um,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, it seems like it was definitely well taken care of, even though you were, splitting up your time during
right,
that time.
right.
Um, when you were growing up around your cousins who are kind of like your siblings,
Right.
did they come to you for advice? And because since you're a coach and you're a counselor, I'm
Right.
just wondering, like, has it always been that way for you? Were you always just you've always been just a coach or a counselor?
Right. That's a great question. I
Thank
think
you.
it was I think it was more about um less about advice, but more about listening.
Mm-hmm.
Like listening and I know I can trust you to tell you this, that you're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
be, you know, um either looking judgmental or going out telling my business kind of thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was more, like it wasn't like, can you tell me how to do this? But it was more like, let me tell you this. Like I gotta tell somebody, let me tell you this. You
Yeah.
know, so I think it was more of that with my cousins as well as my friends at the time.
Mhm.
We had a girl group, friend group, which was about 5 or 6 of us,
Yeah.
and I don't remember us ever having, like this, like breaking up. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
as we were approaching 8th grade and we were all getting ready to separate, I remember some little tensions coming up. So I was like, I don't know if this is separation anxiety, if this is,
Yeah.
we're about to go to our separate corners because we all went to school in different places from there. So I don't know what it was, but for all the way up until then, we were really,
Mhm.
really tight. And, we shared a lot and what we had going on at home. We were each other's
Mm.
support network. And that was elementary and middle school. So yeah, I can remember that.
So the Catholic school that you went to, was that a, I don't know how the school system is in New York. Is that like a public Catholic school, a charter school, or a private?
It's a private school. It's a private school.
Okay.
Refer to it as a parochial school, which is, just the religious part of it.
Mhm.
But there, in New York, there's public school is PS, right?
Mm,
PS
yeah.
189, PS, whatever. And so all my cousins and my friends in the neighborhood went to public school. And then
Okay.
I had, a network of friends that lived throughout Rockaway but went to
Mhm.
this Catholic school with me. So the school was called St. Mary's Star of the Sea.
Wow. That's a name.
That's a name. So, it went by St. Mary's and it was first through 8th grade. And
Mhm.
so I attended there the whole time. But yeah, it was a private school. And so, the testing was different.
Mhm.
A lot of things was different, but I would hear about my cousins. And then I was talking about this not long ago, how
Mhm.
schools used to offer free lunch in the summer,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
so
They started doing that here maybe a few years ago in North
yeah,
Carolina.
yeah, where you could just be playing outside and then just
Mhm.
go to the closest elementary school and have lunch. Yeah,
That's so good. I'm glad they started here now, but I had no idea that they have already been doing this, especially in New York. That's great to know.
yeah. And I don't know if they still do it, but you think
Mhm.
about how, people are struggling at home or they have a
Right.
different and they depend on the meals at school and then
Yeah.
summertime comes and then it's like, so what are we gonna do? So I
Right.
looking back at that now, I thought that was an amazing strategy because even me who wasn't a public school student, I was right there
Yeah.
eating those cheese sandwiches or whatever they had and just
Right.
Mhm.
Wow. The only thing close to that was that I went or experienced was when I was like, I want to say in kindergarten. Before my parents moved out of this neighborhood, we had lived in a trailer park. They went and got a house built after that, but around this time we were living in this trailer park, and there was this older lady in the neighborhood, and she would like, I don't know what I think we called her the candy lady or something, and she would
Every
like give us
neighborhood.
popsicles and stuff during the summer, and like 25, it probably back then it was probably like 15-cent potato chips or something.
Yep.
That was probably the closest summer meal that I remember growing up. That was probably free. She was probably giving it to us for free.
Right, right, right. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So I was digging on your social media, which I do to everyone. So
Hmm.
don't feel like I'm stalking you.
Yeah,
And
no,
I
it's okay.
saw I saw that you have a journal. Did you do a lot of writing as a kid? Did you have a journal or a diary when you were a kid?
I did have a diary. And
Oh, me
it's
too.
it's always interesting, doing interviews, sitting down and talking to people because they make you go back to things that you totally forgot about, right?
Yeah.
And I did have a diary. It had a
Mhm.
key and the whole nine. And my mother has said to me in my adult years that how she found my diary one time,
Oh,
and she was shocked at how much I was like cursing in the diary. Like, what? Totally do not remember any of that. I think I
mhm.
have it now somewhere. Matter of fact, she might have it in storage because I'm like, I want to see what I was saying because I don't know if I was angry. I don't know what, I don't know. But But she told me that much. But yeah, I kept a diary. And I think it came out of because my cousin introduced me to Judy Blume books, right?
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I know that she had one like Dear God, It's Me, Margaret was one of
Mm-hmm.
them that talked about puberty and I think
Yeah.
like religion and puberty and just
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure things out. And then there was some other books that we read at the time, but something prompted me to say, I want a diary. And I'm sure she had to buy it for me, right?
Yeah.
And so I did. I had my diary with my notes in it and my key. And then
Oh,
I have found things like when you're moving or stuff like that. I have these
yeah.
bags of notebooks and things where I used to write stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I had totally forgotten about it. Just until
Yeah.
somebody prompted me to think about it, and I went and looked like, oh my goodness, look at where I was at that time. So much value to go back and be able to look at where you were in your mindset at a certain part of your life. So it's very interesting to do.
I agree with your statement because I was talking to my mom a few months ago and she like sent me a screenshot of like all these goals I had written down in high school. And I was
Yes,
like, oh my God, I can't believe But the good news is I checked every one of those goals off. I couldn't believe
very
it.
nice. Yes,
That was crazy.
yes, yes. And
I
that
forgot
is,
all about it.
oh my gosh, that's such a great point because, when you put things out into the atmosphere and you claim
Yeah.
it and you claim it,
Yes.
I always say whatever you're looking for is looking for you or will find you, you know?
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you put something out there and you were very determined and sometimes we forget about those things, but internally, our minds and our brains are working to achieve that constantly.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I totally agree.
That's
Manifestation
awesome.
is real, or it's been real
Yes.
for me.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
After high school, did your mother or your grandparents encourage you to pursue college?
The interesting thing is I don't remember sitting down with anybody saying, "Okay, you're going to college in 2 years, so
Mm.
let's get it going. Let's get the plans going. What you thinking about?" I do not remember that conversation, but I remember feeling like there was an expectation.
Mm.
And I don't know if it's because they were having conversations with somebody else that I overheard
Mhm.
or I started talking about it and then I was receiving encouragement because I
Mhm.
am a first generation college graduate in my
That's
in my
awesome.
family. Yes, yes,
That's
yes. So
awesome.
so it's like sometimes we're in this situation and our parents don't know what they don't know, right?
Right.
They don't know
Yeah.
the questions to ask because they've never experienced this before, and so it's like I want to be supportive, but I don't really know how to do this you
Right.
know? Yeah, my mother had attended like community college. I think she wanted to pursue
Mhm.
some things, but she did those in her adult life. So when I was
Okay.
younger, she took a couple of classes. I guess just trying to figure out like this is a degree something I want to go towards or
Yeah.
is this thing not for me at this stage in my life? So
Yeah.
so she had that reference, but other than that,
Mhm.
it was like she had never been through the process with another child and she had never been through the process, with close family members. So really not knowing what to do. And of course my grandparents hadn't. So,
Right.
it was interesting, but the expectation was definitely there and the support was there. So I could appreciate that.
Who helped you? Do you remember who helped you during the time? Was it a guidance counselor? Was it a friend?
Yes, ma'am. It was my school counselor, and I will just say, I heard you say guidance counselor, right? So back then,
Mhm.
they were called guidance counselors because at
Mhm.
the time, you know, they weren't trained to be counselors. They were trained
Oh.
more to guide and to get people from coming in as ninth graders to
Mhm.
know all the options and then to help them know what classes to take to get them to that final goal.
Mhm.
But in more recent years, and I say we because I spent 15 years of my adult life as a school counselor,
Wow.
school guidance counseling became more of a like a specialty, right? And you had to
Mm-hmm.
have certain training in counseling as a part of your like degree. And so they taught us how to do individual counseling and use
Mm-hmm.
different theories and have group counseling sessions. So um, we became school counselors, right? So just we just gonna
Wow.
put that to the side. But
Okay,
yes,
yeah, we can definitely go back to that. But
yes,
yeah.
yes. But to answer your question, absolutely. My school counselor, her name was Cecilia Gottsagen, and I swear it's on my list to reach out to her because
Oh,
she has,
yes.
she probably has no idea. I tried to find her on social media. I haven't, but I've seen some articles written about her in New York because I
Mhm.
believe she's still there as an administrator.
Wow. Oh
Yes,
my gosh.
yes, yes, yes. And so she was amazing. I was one of 112 seniors who graduated. I graduated six in my class.
Wow, very
Um,
smart.
yes, yes, I like to think so. I graduated six in my class, and when I tell you about sophomore year, she and I established a relationship. I don't know if she called me to do something, and then it was like, oh, she knows me, so it makes it easier for me to go to her. So I would go to her like for everything, and then when she needed a student to do something, she would
Mhm.
call on me. And so we had,
Oh.
yeah, we had this relationship. And so our school had an agreement, a partnership with
Mhm.
different organizations and businesses and corporations and things in New York, and we had a stay in school program. And
Oh.
so they looked for a certain amount of, I think, 11 rising 11th graders to
Mhm.
place them in a job. And so she called me down for the program and she placed me at the New York City Board of Education my first year.
Wow.
So that summer, I worked in the timekeeping department. And that was when people punched the clock. So they were literally sending time cards,
Wow.
literally sending time cards. And through the summer, I worked with that department doing, tracking the timekeeping of the
Yeah.
educators in the state of New York, and or the state New York Board of Education, and all those kinds of things. And then going into my senior year, I got placed at the United States Attorney's Office,
Man, that's a
federal.
blessing.
Listen, I went from a state job to a federal job all while I was in high school.
That's crazy.
Isn't
I
it?
don't even the amount of community that your high school created for the students. I'm guessing the stay in school program was for people to continue with some type of career path after high school.
You got it. Well, it was to continue to college. It was
Got
another
it.
incentive to stay in school.
Whoever created that. That was smart.
Genius,
Yeah.
genius. And I'll tell you how it had long lasting impacts. When I
Hmm.
when I was coming to Virginia, because I had a good relationship with my supervisor and she adored me, right? Even though
Hmm.
her personality, I just was like, I don't I don't know if we really vibing. I think we are, but we're different.
Yeah.
I went to her and I said to her, listen, I'm going to college in Virginia, this stay in school program. Is it possible that I could continue working, if I could continue working in this, um, for this, I'm trying to figure out how to say it, like for the U.S. Attorney's Office, because I'm
Okay.
going to the capital of Virginia and I'm sure there's one there. And
Yeah.
she did some research. She said, absolutely, there's one there. Let me make a phone call. She made a
Wow.
phone call and got me a job. So I stepped into the state of Virginia with a government job in this stay in school program. And I worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office until I graduated with my bachelor's degree in
Wow, that's
Richmond.
amazing.
And they always worked around my school schedule. They were very flexible. So I was working with the United States Attorney and all of his assistants
That
here in the
is
state of Virginia. As a senior, I mean, as a college student, absolutely. Absolutely. So when you talk about my school counselor, she has no idea. And every time I have one of these interviews, I'm like, I got to reach out to Miss Gottsagen. If nothing else, she is getting her praises that she doesn't even know about, but I do need to give her flowers in person because she made a major impact in my life and she helped me get into college. And yeah.
I love hearing stories about like teachers and guidance counselors like making an impact. Like I
Yes,
feel like those positions are very thankless jobs. And so
absolutely.
thank you for giving her a shout out. She deserves it.
Yes, yes. And she is that relationship encouraged me to become a school counselor. So I know we'll talk
Wow.
about that whenever, but
Yeah,
that was my
yeah.
first adult, career move. And yeah, that was an amazing journey.
So speaking of college, can you tell us what college you went to and what was your major?
Yes. So I left New York and I came to Virginia Union University.
Okay.
I had a goal of becoming a pediatrician, which we see that didn't happen, right? But but I went to Union. They did not have a pre-med track. And so
hmm
what I ended up doing was I majored in biology.
Okay.
And so my freshman and sophomore year, I was a biology major at Virginia Union. But then I realized I'm not sure if I'm in the right place to become a pediatrician, right? Like
Mm.
nothing away from Virginia Union because it was the best experience. I've made
Yeah.
lifelong friends. I learned a few things, you know what I mean? But I felt like I don't know if I'm in the right place. And I have been hearing more about VCU and MCV, the Medical College of Virginia, and I'm like, I feel like I need to be over there because I'm gonna be closer to where I need to be.
Yeah.
I'll be in the environment that would contribute to me, following through on that goal. So in my junior year, I transferred to Virginia Commonwealth University.
Okay.
Um, but when I got there, I had a rude awakening, Sharryse.
Oh no, what
Yeah,
happened?
I had a rude awakening. I got there and I'm in admissions and they're looking at my transcript and they're like, okay, this religion class, we can't count that.
Dang.
This math, I don't know. We need to assess for ourselves. So that was a slap in the face. Like, so their math class isn't good enough. Like,
Right.
you just gonna tell me that it don't count at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, those 2 years that I had spent at Virginia Union, they took 13 credits away from me. 13.
Um,
That's a whole semester.
oh, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. They took
Yeah.
13 credits away from me. So here I am trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? Because I still need to graduate on time or at least
Right.
close to on time. So I explored a couple of different majors, but the things that I
Mhm.
wanted, like VCU, they might have offered a certificate or they might have offered a minor, but they didn't have a degree in that thing.
Mhm.
Occupational therapy was one of them. There was something else that I wanted to do. I can't remember right now. But so
Mhm.
I ended up taking the psychology route, right? Because most of my
Yeah.
credits would go easily to a psychology degree. And so
Okay.
I pursued a psychology degree. I ended up graduating, taking an extra semester because I ended up,
Mhm.
I had to make up those credits. So I
Yeah.
graduated with my psychology degree and I'm sitting there like, so what am I supposed to do now? I went and got a job at a bank. I worked at a bank and then I worked at a credit union and I'm going, what am I supposed to do with this? Um,
Man.
yeah, yeah. So then I went back and I was like, I got to reevaluate. Like, this can't be it. I saw a psychology degree as somebody who wanted to advance in the area of psychology, maybe
Right.
become a professor or do some research. And I was like, that's really not what I want to do. It's a good foundation, but what can I do? And I first decided I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. That lasted for one semester. They sent me out in the field and I was like, absolutely not. This is not my ministry. You got to know your
That's not
gifts.
your purpose.
It's not my purpose. It's not my ministry. I can't sit in this classroom and have to call somebody to go to the bathroom and have these little people running around. Like, my patience wasn't there at the time. So I sat
Mhm.
and I really thought about it. And I thought about Miss Scott Sagan. And I said, she was so amazing. That's the impact I want to have on young people. Okay, I didn't become a pediatrician, which, I still think that the impact was very similar, if not even more,
Yeah.
because as a physician, like, I see them for a few minutes a couple of times a year. But as a counselor, I can really get into their lives and really be, that trusted person in the building that
Yeah.
they could go to, and hopefully help them experience the transformation they're looking for. So that's what I did. And I got my
Okay.
master's degree from VCU in master's of education in guidance and school counseling.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is a good transition into this next segment, which is called Digging Deeper. And during this segment, I ask provoking questions about your personal life and your career. So
Okay.
after you got your master's degree, tell us about how that journey was, and I guess what led you to where you are today.
Yes. So, um, before I got my master's degree, I had to do my what we call an externship. For some reason, they didn't call it an internship; they called it externship.
Okay.
So I was at a local middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to be a December graduate.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I'm graduating in December. So there was a counselor who was leaving, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I can get that job. And so I went to the principal. I went to my supervisor, who was the director of counseling, and I said,
Okay.
"You think I should go to the principal and ask her if I could get this job?" Because he was leaving in December. And she said, "Sure, schedule a meeting." So I scheduled a meeting with the principal. Oh my gosh. And I'm shaking in my boots, right? And I'm like, what? And I wasn't a Delta at the time. She was a Delta.
Mhm.
So I was like admiring her with that. And she was the principal.
Yeah.
And I got the nerve. I went in there and I had the meeting. And she very nicely told me, probably offered me a piece of candy at but she was like, no, baby, no. I can't hire you.
Dang.
She was like, you don't have your license yet. You know, I don't know what else she said, but she was like, yeah, you did not even finish yet. Like what, like, no, I
Mm.
can't do that. And it was kind of a slap in the face because I felt like I had done the thing and I had proved myself to
Yeah.
everybody. So I'm like, okay, my tail between my legs. I walked out and I'm like, all right, we'll just finish up and do whatever.
Mhm.
So I finished in December. And then
Mhm.
right after I got my degree, I saw an
Mhm.
opening for another middle school, which was right down the street. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, okay, I think I'm where I need to be now. I can
Yeah.
apply. And during the application process, when you're just coming out of college, you can apply for your license. And so everything comes together so that when you start working, you're good.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
so I usually tear up when I tell the story. So I'm gonna try to stay dry.
It's
But
okay. This is a safe space. If you feel like
right,
crying, I might cry with you. Nah,
right.
share it.
So I applied for the position.
Mhm.
And I went and I had my interview. And the way I am with interviews, I start calling people who knows somebody. Like everything has been relational to me in my whole adult career. I've not gotten
Mhm.
one job in my entire adult career without a connection. Let me just say that for the people who are
Okay.
watching, relationships matter,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And so I reach out to all these people and I let them know that I have this interview. What do I need to know? Who do you know? Can you put a word in for me? Whatever. So I have my interview and I'm like, okay, I think it went well. And I'm at the same time I'm online to play Delta, right?
Wow. Oh my God, what a
All this,
time.
yes, it's it's a lot going on, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm in the flow. So I go and so I cross Delta and I'm doing some of my first events with them and I get a call and they offer me the job, right? So I'm like, wow. And mind you, it's like March, April of the
Mhm.
year and the job doesn't start until August. So it's not until
Okay.
the next school year, right?
Wow.
And I'm currently doing like in-home work, working as an in-home counselor. And so I get the job, I go there, I'm doing my thing. A couple of years go by, and I decide to transfer schools. And when I get to the new school, this same principal is the interim principal there, right? So I'm like, "Hmm, let me show her that I made it, right?" So I'm there, I'm doing my thing. And one day I get up the nerve to go in her office and say, "Do you remember me? Do you
Oh God.
remember like back in 19 whatever that I asked you for a job at Fairfield and you didn't give me the job. You told me I wasn't ready." I said I ended up working at Fairfield. I mean, I ended up not Fairfield was the school that she was at. I ended up
Mhm.
going to John Rolfe and everything was great. You know what she said to me?
What?
How do you think you got that job?
Oh
I was
my
I was there the
God.
whole time. I put the work. I'm like, girl, I'm thinking I'm going in there telling her something, right? She's like, I've been there the whole time. So even though she
Set you
finally,
down.
listen, listen, she sat me down. She was like, she had put a word in for me. She never told me. I never got that from her when I met with her, but she knew what I was doing in the background. She knew, the counselor who was my supervisor, they have been talking, like she knew. So you know um, how people mention your name in rooms. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes,
those
when
are the
you're not there.
when you're not there. Those are the benefits of showing up 100% and doing what you got to do, regardless of the accolades, regardless of people patting you on your back, or regardless of whatever. You just show up and you just do what you came to do. Be 100% authentic and try to make a difference in somebody's life, and people are watching and they see it. And so that's what happened. And I was like, whoa, she blew me away with that. And so, ever since then, she's been a mentor, to me, and, it was amazing. So I just love that story because they all had such an impact on my life, and I try to be that person for the young people who are coming up, whether they're my students or just younger
Mhm.
people in the field. It's important, to have those connections and that we reach down and help those who are coming behind us. Absolutely.
I'll tell you my story another day, but I also have a story just like that. I didn't
Yes,
just get into journalism because I was so great. But that's a
that part.
story for another day.
That part. Yes.
So how did that from there? How did you end up starting your business that you have now?
Yes, I served as a school counselor for 15 years. Out
Hmm.
of those 15, 13 of them were in middle school, and two
Okay.
of them were in high school. So you see the age range that I'm working with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I love that age range, unlike, the elementary age, which, nothing against that. If that's your gift and that's your calling, by all means. But I love this population. I
Yeah.
loved how authentic they were. It was just like, when they came to me, there was no filter. They weren't trying to be somebody they weren't. Like, I got it straight, no chaser. Like, they showed up and they said what they really felt about whoever they were talking about, whether it was the principal of the school, whether it was their teachers, whether it was their classmates, whether it was their parents and siblings and families. I created that safe space so they would come and I would just be like, oh my gosh. And I also
Mm.
realized that this might have been the only place that they were able to be 100% themselves. Um, and so I never took that lightly. I always, felt it. I felt gratitude towards the fact that they saw me in that light and they felt that they could come and be themselves and, grow in that space. And
Yeah.
so here we are. It's 2020. We're in the pandemic,
Hmm.
and I'm like, okay, God, there's some. I feel a pull. I feel something pushing me. I feel
Yeah.
something pulling me. I'm like, I got all this time. I mean, I'm working full time, right?
Hmm.
And I have a program where I'm working with I'm working in an after school program that I've now had to take virtual because
Hmm.
of this pandemic and we couldn't meet.
Right. COVID.
And I'm saying to myself, I have this time. Surely it is not just to sit here and work virtually, which was a struggle in itself.
Hmm.
What else? What else? Somebody invited me to a group coaching program.
Hmm.
And it was something like how to monetize on LinkedIn or how to do something, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, maybe I can grow on LinkedIn somewhere and then kind of figure out what I want, where I'm going. And so I joined this group. It's an 8-week group, but different things
Hmm.
are happening. So it lasts about maybe 10, 12 weeks. By the time we
Okay.
had a day off, we had to cancel, we had to whatever. So it's like from September to November or September
Okay.
to December, something like that. So it's 2020
Hmm.
and I'm in there and I I found myself two times on the phone with the coach, that was supposed to be just a call to find out something and ended up being a
Hmm.
whole hour long individual session that I did
Wow.
not pay extra for. I just was
Wow.
asking a question and she was intrigued by what I was doing and asked more questions and I was like, I just got coached, right? So between the group coaching piece and between my individuals with her, I was 2020 vision in 2020. I was crystal clear about what I wanted to do. I was like, this right here that we doing, this is what I want to do for young people. Because
Hmm.
as they transition into high school, into college, into their young adult life, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know the questions to ask. And most of them don't have that space where they could show up and be 100% themselves and ask the questions they won't ask to anybody else, or share the things that they've been
Yeah.
thinking in their mind with anybody else. I'm going to be a life coach for this population. So 15 to 25, we about to do it. And it was into getting my first client that I was like, I'm talking all mindset here. This is all mindset, because you don't I mean, you can't because you believe you can, not because you can't. It's all
Right.
in their minds. I can't say something to these people just because I believe they're going to react this way, or I believe that it's going to, be whatever. I can't do this because of my struggles I've had in the past. It was just a lot of, I can't, like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What's my goals? What do you mean? And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, okay. So after that, I was like, okay, I'm a mindset coach, because we starting with mindset with everybody, and then we can get into the life coaching piece as we go. So that's pretty
Yeah.
much how I came there. So 2020 Unbreakable Minds Coaching was born. February 2021 Unbreakable Minds Coaching was born, and it was just an extension to what God had been, every job had been preparing me for this assignment. And so here we are.
Wow. I definitely see how you might have felt like you were pivoting, but you were walking in your purpose the whole time.
The
Whole
whole time. The whole time. I wrote about that in a chapter of a book that I wrote, which we'll talk about later. But yes, the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, before we move on, we can talk about your book. So let's talk about your book for a second. Can you tell us the name of the book?
Yes. So I will say that it's a book collaboration. And of course, I
Hmm.
have them here because I'm ready. But it's called Prosper, right? And Prosper, a guide to flourishing in life, business, and career.
Hmm.
Last year, I invested in myself, in my business, in my current and future clients, and I joined a group coaching program called the Platform Builders. And in that cohort, we wrote a book together. And so this
Wow.
was our book, and my chapter was I Woke Up Like This. And
Oh, not I'm gonna buy it. I'm about to buy it.
okay, I will drop the link. I will drop the link.
Please.
But
Yeah.
yes, it was called I Woke Up Like This, and all my fellow cohort members, amazing stories about, just prospering in life and career and business.
Hmm.
Um and it was basically about how I didn't recognize that I was walking in my purpose, but I was walking in my purpose the whole time. And that life
Hmm.
has, for me, has been a series of awakenings. So when I
Yeah.
say I woke up like this, I had like my awakening, my reawakening, and my reawakening. That's my sections in my chapter. And just different stages in my life where I was like, oh, this is what's happening. This is what my purpose is. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've been doing it, but still searching. I'm still
Yeah.
searching, feeling incomplete, feeling like there's something more, and not realizing that it was, right in front of me.
Yeah.
Because it was too easy, right? And I'm thinking that it has to be something that's hard and it's going to require, all these different things. And all the time I was walking in my purpose. The other thing I talk about in that chapter is the importance of relationships, which is what I've been talking to you about the whole time,
Yeah.
and connections. And my father died when I was 2 months old, and so
Mm.
that's, my mother became a widow, and that wasn't her plan to raise me as an only child by herself, but she
Right.
she did, and she ushered in the village to fill in the gaps. And so from that, even
Mhm.
though I felt like I had a hole in my story,
Mhm.
with him not being there and not having that father-daughter relationship,
Right.
the relationships that I was acquiring over the years was slowly filling the hole, and
Wow.
I was awakening to that as well. So this chapter is all about life's awakenings,
Mhm.
and doing that through connections, and purpose and things like that. So yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
then I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead. Go
if I
ahead.
could add one more
Yeah.
thing. So when I did that, I was inspired to create a journal, that is also named after my chapter. I woke up like this.
I love that.
And
I was about to ask you about your journal next anyway. So I mean,
yeah, yeah. And this is my personal one that I've been writing in, but it was all about being able to be in the present moment and have a sense of awareness of what's going on. Because for so many years I wasn't aware of what was happening.
yeah.
right? And I wasn't being intentional based on that awareness. And so I'm like, anybody who reads this book or who gets this journal, I want them to be intentional about waking up every day with
Mm-hmm.
intention and paying attention to their physical sensations in their body and what is that telling them, to their first thoughts and their mindsets. You know how we come up with these amazing things in the shower or when we're driving down the
Yeah.
street, and then we get home and we're like, what? That was something amazing. What was it? You know, but to
Yeah.
tap into that, even if you just write it on a post-it note and come back to it later. Um, New awareness, like, oh, I used to do this, but now I do this.
Yeah.
I used to be afraid to do this, but now I'm doing it. I wonder what the transition was that got me from there to here. And then the last thing is what new clarity, again, that we come up with, like something that I was really foggy about. I wasn't sure, like me knowing that I needed to go into life coaching for young people. Like that was a
Right.
moment of clarity that when I experienced, I'm like, whoa. And I've
Mhm.
experienced those years before, but wasn't really dialed in, it was just happening.
Right.
I was just living life. Oh, what's next? What's next? But just to slow down and to take
Hmm.
a moment and really be intentional about the moves that we make. So all that stirred up in a cup. That's what these two books will help people do. Just get some clarity and some awareness so they can walk in their truth and it, authentically into their purpose. So yeah.
And where can people find your journal or the book that you co-wrote?
Yeah. So my website has the link to the book, which
Hmm.
is unbreakableminds.org. And then the journal can be found on Amazon.
Okay.
I Woke Up Like This by Yolanda Hall is on Amazon, so it can be found there. And like I said, the link is on the first page of my website. Yes. And then it's also in my Instagram bio and my link tree. Unbreakable Minds Coaching everywhere. Yes.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Now, for someone who wants to start a business, what would be some advice you'd give them?
Um, I think the first thing I would say is if they wanted to start a business but wasn't 100% sure what that business is. Some people just know, I want to be an entrepreneur and I don't want to work for anybody else, right? I have some of my
Mhm.
young teenage clients telling me that now, like, I don't want to work for nobody. Well, I don't know what I want to do, but I do know I don't want to work for it. So when you are trying to discover what it is, I often ask the question, what is something that you would do for free if money wasn't an issue, and you would do
Mm,
it for the rest of your life,
yeah.
right? And sometimes it's something that they think about and they think that it's not a business. So they're trapped in the box of, I love to dance. I love
Hmm.
to dance. I had a client, at the time she was 16. Now she's 20, I think,
Okay.
right? When I
Yeah.
started working with her, she was 16, and she, talked about dance and how she wanted to start a business teaching young girls dance and things like that. But
Hmm.
she didn't even say she wanted to start a business at the time. She was just thinking like, that's something I love to do. And then she started
Yeah.
telling me something she wanted to, started a business and connect that dancing to something else too. But
Hmm.
um I would definitely tell somebody to think of that, right? First and foremost. Then I would tell them whatever it is they decide that they think they want to do in their business, go out and find a mentor.
Yes.
Find a group of mentors. It doesn't have to be
Hmm.
one, right? Find somebody that's already in the field. Find somebody that is an entrepreneur, period.
Hmm.
Find people who are already doing this thing, because then you can get exposure. I have
Hmm.
so many of my young clients saying, Miss Yolanda, if you need anything, just call me. If you're doing an event and you just need somebody to help out, even if you can't pay me, like, I just want to come and see what you do. I just want to come and experience what's happening, because I know I've been in a group with you before. I've had some services with you before. So I just want to see you in action because I want to do something similar. And so
Hmm.
they come out and they get to observe and then they get to ask me questions. Like, I wish I would have had that, or I would have even thought about that.
Yeah.
So those are two things. I mean, I could go down a whole list, but those are two things that I would start with.
Hmm.
And then just doing your research. These days you can go into YouTube, which is a search engine, and you
Yup.
can start typing something and YouTube will finish it based off
Yup.
of what is popular, what is popping in that you know what I mean? So It's
Definitely.
easy to go out and find, and even like Pinterest, those two are like those kind of search engines that you go to look for things when you don't have complete thoughts, or you want to see what people are saying or doing, right? So
Right.
that's another thing.
Okay. Now, can you break down exactly what you do within your business? Because I saw that you do a lot. You like host after school programs or events, community events, all these different things. Can you tell us about that?
It's so many different things. I'm like, do I need to focus more? Like, what is going on? Um, but yes, I provide, like I say, mindset and life coaching
Mm-hmm.
to high school students, to college students, and to those newly adulting, right? Those going out in life, whether you are leaving college and I mean leaving high school and saying college is not for me, but I need to figure out what my trajectory is going to be because I didn't choose the college route.
Mm-hmm.
And so those newly adulting. So I work with young people ages 15 to 25, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get out of their own heads and get out of their own way, right? I help them
Yeah.
be the best version of themselves by helping them get out of the box, right? By helping them change and transform their mindset so they can meet their best self. A lot of
Yeah.
them haven't met their best self because they've been operating in this box of what they think they can and cannot do. So I work with them to remove all those barriers that they have placed or that society or family or their environment has placed in their way.
Mm-hmm.
And and my part of my mission is just so that they can live their best life with purpose, on purpose, right? And so
Wow.
the on purpose piece is about being intentional, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the moves that I make, that they all are one step, getting me one step closer to where I need to go. And I'm not just out here doing things just because it's what's happening right now or what the fad is
Right.
or what's popular. If it's not a step towards this, then
Mm-hmm.
do I need to make this step? To have them really ponder, like, you know,
Right.
not to say that you can't explore, but at the
Yeah.
same time, just be intentional about your exploration. So
Agreed.
I work with that population, but in working with them, a lot of times parents will come and they will want, my child needs the work. My child needs the work because they're not living to their full potential. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. And I work with the child, and I feel like that the child is in a good space, but the child can't go any further because they are living in an environment that is impacting their progress,
I
right?
agree. It's not conducive to help them progress at all.
Right.
I've seen it. So yeah.
Yes. And so we've all probably been through it. And it's like, how can I expect you to, yeah, I'm going to make some progress. Your child's going to make some progress with the coach, the life coach, the counselor, the therapist, or whatever. But at what point, as parents, do we say, okay, what do I have to change or adjust? Because as my child grows, I can't, I can't parent them the same way that I parented them when they were here. Now I have to parent
Mhm.
them like they're there, which requires some change or transformation in me. So
Accountability.
accountability, absolutely, absolutely, right. And so at that point, I'm talking to parents and I'm saying, okay, we will have meetings throughout the child's coaching time frame,
Hmm.
and I begin like, I don't want to coach you unless you want to hire me to coach you, but I
Yeah.
need you to know that there's some requirements that you have got to fulfill if you want this thing to work, and so
Mhm.
to finish answering your question, so I do work with parents. I work with parents um, it, within the child's coaching program, but then I also offer parents to be able to work with them one on one,
Mhm.
to be able to have some of those conversations. And not that I'm a therapist, but I have to help them connect their childhood and their experience at this age to their child's experience at this age.
Well, since we're talking about parents, what's your conversation like with single parents or even different types of parents who might be grandparents who are taking in a child? But how what's it like with them when they have to do it by themselves? Like what and without support from their village and anything. Like what do you tell those parents who are struggling, trying to help their kids progress?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I first find myself in a listening role because when you meet these parents, they just want to dump it, right? They just want to
Yeah.
get it. It's like, Coach Yolanda, I know you sending me this email telling me ways I can support my child. Who's supporting me? So I'm listening and I'm like, that's real, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's far um it's far more common than it should be because we were not meant to do this parenting thing alone. We were
Mhm.
not meant to do life alone.
Yeah.
When you think into historic and prehistoric times, it was all about the village and all about the tribe and how we all came together to raise them up,
Yeah.
raise up the child. And so, when they come at first, I'm listening. I'm
Mhm.
listening, and I try to be careful to not give advice unless it's asked for, because that's another thing that can get you in trouble when people are not ready to hear certain things. They're not receptive of your advice,
Mhm. Yeah.
or so I always try to provide resources. Like if they say I need something, and I may say I have some resources, I have community partners, I have community organizations, I have physical resources that I could give you. Is that something that you would like me to do? And so I'm able to do that. But I'm finding, you know probably 90% of the young people that I work with, and my husband is a life coach as well. He works with the young men and I work with the young
Mhm.
ladies. We refer, if there's a female or a male, and we refer and try to keep things in the family. Um, but most of them are single parents.
Mm.
And, they are, in my case, in his case, they are women who have issues with their fathers, or
Mm.
their fathers were absent, or their fathers were, or they just their parents, period. And
Yeah.
so, they're struggling with that aspect of what they had to deal with. And then they're trying to raise their child differently, but they're dealing with their own emotional trauma and their own past history, and they're still raising themselves while they're trying to raise their children. And it's just so much. It's so much.
Yeah.
It's a heavy load to carry. um
Mhm.
and so I am in listening mode a lot, and I'm just there like, tell me what you need. Sometimes I say, is there a question? What's the question? So that they can
They can hone
ask.
in.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, they can be empowered to ask. And some people are like, I don't even know what I want, or I don't even know what I need. I just
Mhm.
know that I'm struggling, or I'm,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and some are still in the mode of keeping it all together. And so
Mhm.
they're being strong, and they are caught up in the busyness of life, which I am guilty of being in that myself. Just caught
Mhm.
up into doing and not thinking about being. We are human beings, and so the most important part of us is who we are, and who we are in our spaces. But sometimes we get caught up in doing and checking the box, and getting gratification, and all those kinds of things from the things that we do and the things we accomplish. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot, when it comes to parents. And then, I'm talking to the young people, and they're like, Miss Yolanda, can you tell my mother this? Can you? I had one text me say, can you tell my mother to let me go to this thing? The problem that I'm having in school is not me, it's the teacher, but she won't let me go because I'm getting in
Yeah.
trouble, and I'm like, I don't tell parents how to parent.
Yeah.
I'm not going, that's a boundary. I'm not going to call, even if I think she should be doing things differently. I never, tell parents how they need to parent. I just provide them what they express they need. And I may ask questions to pull things out of them that
Mhm.
I think they're not saying, things like
Yeah.
that. So I hope I answered your question, but
You
yeah,
did.
it's a
You
lot. It's
did.
a lot. Yeah.
It is. You unpacked it well. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Thank
What's
you.
an
Thank you.
ongoing problem that you're seeing within kids nowadays? Because when I was 12. I'm pretty sure when you were 12, it was different from when you were 12. When I was 12, it was different. They got social media impacting their lives now. What's something that you see now that wasn't a thing probably 20 years ago?
Right. I see isolation,
Mm,
right? Because we're inside
yes.
and all the kids are in their dark rooms with these LED lights, including both of mine. And their whole social life takes place there. You know,
Wow.
they have one device, they have two devices, they have three devices. You know, they're playing games on one, they are on FaceTime with somebody on another one. They are, playing these games where they all can meet in the games. They are
Hmm.
in the DMs and they are, stories and all this kind of stuff. But I'm like, is anybody picking up the phone anymore? Anybody going outside anymore? My kids, when they were younger, I pushed them outside. But COVID just changed so much, including with my own children, that I'm trying to unpack and redo and undo some things, have them unlearn some
Right.
things and relearn some things. But isolation is one of the bigger issues, because at the end of the day, there is a sense of loneliness, even though they think they're connected, or you know what I mean? There's still something missing.
Hmm.
And then anxiety.
Yeah.
Younger and younger kids are experiencing anxiety at such high rates. Excuse me, I've done, I don't want to misquote any percentages, but it is almost halfway through the year.
Hmm.
And every single talk that I've been called to do for
Hmm.
young people has been about stress and anxiety. Every single one.
Mm-hmm.
Every
That's
single one.
bad.
Every
So,
single
what's
one.
your advice for some of these children experiencing isolation and anxiety?
So I definitely think that they need to be intentional about creating their circle of support. So when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about the village and we talk about the tribes and all that kind of stuff, um, I always tell them that even though you may not know that you need all of these people right now, but
Mm-hmm.
you may be looking for one person to be all these people, and they don't have you might be looking for one person to be everything that you need, and that one person doesn't have the capacity to do that.
Right.
And so one of the activities that I do early on in our coaching is about creating your circle of support. So, who is the mother or the mother figure, the father or the father figure? Opening the
Mm-hmm.
door to say that it doesn't have to be your mother or father. It can be someone else who you feel more connected to in that area. Who is someone who's almost like a grandparent? They have a little more wisdom. Even though grandparents are getting younger and younger, they still have
Yeah.
more wisdom than the parents, right? They still have more
Right.
experience. They've lived more life. And so who is that one person that you go to be connected to how things were when we were younger, right? So
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to talk about it. They're going to let you
Yeah.
know that when my kids or my grandkids were this age, these are the things that we were doing that y'all don't do no more. That's wrong. That's what's wrong with you now. Da, 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 da. But you still, even though you feel like you're getting a little spanking, you still learn from those conversations. Like, wow,
Yeah.
they used to do, and excuse me. Um, so I got on topic. I'm sorry. Help me bring it back.
No, so you are talking about how people or children who are experiencing anxiety and trauma from isolation, like how
Right.
do
And the
what type
advice.
of advice would you give them? But I
Right,
feel
right.
like you said a lot already. You already gave us a couple of different examples, so I
Yeah,
think
that
that was
circle of
great.
support. Yeah, that
Yeah.
circle of support is everything. I do want to add to that though about the different people.
Hmm.
I think there needs to be a mentor on that list. And I think
Hmm.
even if you're 15 and the mentor is 18 or 19, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a 50-year-old person. And then there needs to be someone that you trust wholeheartedly, and you can tell them any and everything, and you can trust that it will stay with them, because you do need somewhere to let go. Somebody's going to help fill your cup as you're emptying it. They're going to help fill your cup, and that person that you could call at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're gonna pick up the phone and say, "Girl, I'm asleep, but what's going on? It must be something because you calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning, right?"
Right.
So just all those things, one person can't.
Yeah.
I have never seen it that one person can be all of those people to someone. So, we got to advocate for ourselves and make sure that we have what we need. for the
Absolutely.
time
I
being.
don't want to take up too much of your time. So this next segment is called Shout 'em Out. And during this segment, you get to shout out an organization that you feel like is making a difference. It doesn't have to be a nonprofit. It could be whatever business, a person who owns a business, who's an entrepreneur. They might be a makeup artist. Anything you want, floor is yours. Shout them out and tell our listeners what they do.
Yes. So this is hard, right? Just trying to think of one. So if it's okay, um, in talking about village, I have a few that I won't get into the weeds about each
Give
of
them a
them.
couple if you want. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I just want to shout them out. So of course I'll shout out New Collar Solutions, which is my husband's organization, Curtis Hall, and he provides life coaching for it started out as for young men like I do with young ladies, but he has
Yeah.
had so many older men to come. And so now he's like his thing is he works from what did he say, 12 to 60 or age 10 to age 60 or something
Yeah.
like that. He's working with older men. And so it's
Mhm.
impactful. But also, you know, the two of the public school systems here,
Mhm.
we formed great relationships with Richmond Public Schools and Henrico County Public Schools to be able to have work with them in their out of school time programs. So two schools I will shout out off the top is, or two school related is the Richmond High School for the Arts. We have been doing a program called Crown Movement with them for the past 2 years, and that's been amazing. But they are an after school program, and they call us in
Mhm.
to do a segment of that program. We recently went to another school called Thomas Jefferson, and we did
Mhm.
a program there. And then the Henrico Education Foundation, who has asked us to come in and do parent workshops for their after school program, the parent and family engagement. So that's been awesome to be able to serve the parents and the youth together.
Yeah.
So I'll shout them out. Just to name a few others, Real Girls is an organization that's here that's empowering young ladies, and Real stands for, oh, I think respected, empowered, and loved girls.
Mhm.
They're an organization led by Tammy Mobley, and I've done a lot of work with them. Um, Also, School After Hours podcast, very similar to what we're doing here. She
Mhm.
likes to work with people who are serving young people in the community out of school time. So she
Wow.
has that's on different platforms. Charvette
Mhm.
Mitchell and Mitchell Productions. She's a branding firm, but she is the person who made me an author,
Yeah.
by being in her group and co-writing Prosper. So, and then Next Up has been providing us a lot of funding for our
Mhm.
programs. And I will also lastly shout out, well, the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Richmond. We've worked with them, and then the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. We have expanded outside
Wow.
of Richmond, and they have a program called Project Ready. But
Mhm.
she said, Yolanda, I don't know if they're ready for Project Ready. What else can we do? And I was like, let's do Project Unbreakable. So I came in on the end,
Wow.
yes, to get some skills,
Mhm.
instill some skills in them so they would be ready for Project Ready. So those are a
Love
few
that.
that I would say, and I hope I'm not missing anybody. VCU Mary and Francis Center, Lord have mercy, they have been a godsend. We have done a
Mm.
lot of work with them on parenting as well. VCU Mary and Francis Center, Youth Development Center. So
Well, shout out to all of them. And y'all, please
yes,
make sure you go and follow them on social media. Google them. You can
yes.
pause this and go Google all those names that she just announced.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. The last segment is called Rants with Sharryse. It's my favorite part of my podcast. So you get to rant or complain about anything that you want. And I know you're a counselor, so you probably don't complain. But you gotta have a pet peeve. You gotta have something that gets under your skin. But whatever it is, share it with our listeners. It can be, I don't know, people choosing not to use washcloths, whatever new trend that's on social media you don't like, whatever. But then after you share it, you have to basically give us a solution to fix the problem that you don't like. So the floor is
Yes.
yours.
Oh my goodness. Okay. The first thing that comes to mind is that I consider myself an over communicator, right? So
Okay.
I'm gonna send you an email, I'm gonna send you a text, I'm gonna send you some links, I'm gonna do some different things. Um, but one pet peeve of mine is when I do all that and then people text me and say, can you answer this question? It gets under everything that's in me. to be able to say, I can tell you 5 places that I've sent you that you could click, or you could look and reference where I've already shared this information. Why am I recommunicating something that I over communicated in the first place? And when you got all those emails, you probably was like, Dad, Yolanda texting me, she emailing me, she doing all this. So you know what I'm saying? And so one thing that I try to do in this situation that I wish people would do is go to look for the answer first before you text and ask me that question again. I sent an email to somebody today, and I said to them, I said, I probably don't have this because I didn't ask for this. I said, but I went to look in everywhere we communicate first to see if I have it, and I don't have it. So would you mind sending me this invoice?
Yeah.
You know, because we had a contract, but I
Right.
don't know that we got an invoice, you know, and it's almost time to pay up, and I'm looking for the invoice, and I'm like, I looked everywhere for it. Forgive me if I missed it, but if you have it, send it to me. If you don't, please create one and send it to me. I would love for people to do that with me. I would love for people to say, Yolanda, I looked everywhere, I couldn't find it. And I still would have a little bit of a hard time by saying, and you know, in those cases, I get a little passive aggressive or a little petty, and I send them the original text or email, right, with date and timestamp.
I've done that too.
Girl. And then I just forward that to you again so you can see you have this. You have it. So yeah.
Yeah. That's something that I even deal with being like not just a journalist, but even with my podcast. I send people all the information, and they'll
You
be like,
do?
when we do the interview, they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't know you were going to ask that question." Yes, you did. I sent this
Yes,
to
you did.
you like 3 or 4 days ago. What do you
Yeah.
mean you didn't know? Oh, I didn't really look at the questions. Why not?
Right. Right. And you have the nerve to say
Yes,
to
during
me,
the interview. Like
yes,
what?
yes, 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 yes. Absolutely. I mean,
So
we here on that.
we sure are. We sure are.
Yes.
But before you go, can you please share your social media and where people can find you at one more time, just in case they forgot that you said this earlier in the
Right,
podcast.
right, right. Yes. So again, Sharryse, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you for the opportunity. And I would love to come back anytime and
Oh
all
yes,
that good stuff. Yes. Because there's always things to talk about when it comes to young people and families and things like that.
absolutely.
But people can find me I'm sorry. People can find me on my website, which is unbreakableminds.org. And then on Instagram and Facebook, I am at Unbreakable Minds Coaching. I do have a link tree, which is also Unbreakable Minds Coaching. And so all the links to everything is there. All the videos that I've done, interviews that I've done, links to books, links to, all the things that we offer. I have some digital products that are coming up. And so there's links to all of those things. And is there anywhere else? My email is coaching@unbreakableminds.org. Coaching@unbreakableminds.org. But if you go to any of those public spaces, you find out everything you need to get in contact with me. And we could definitely have a conversation.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on my show. I can't wait for you to come back.
Yes, it's been a pleasure being here. I appreciate you so much.
I'm gonna have to do an in-person interview with you next time.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
always down for an in-person interview. Yes, I think that's what we're going to do.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for listening to Connect Like Minds.